Hello, thanks for tuning in. I'm Jim Roger, and you're watching Cosmic Chronicles. If you have any interest whatsoever in UFOs, you're in for a blockbuster of a show tonight, so you better fasten your seatbelts. And by the way, as we were all on our way into the studio this afternoon, we had a sighting. A silver ball came straight down out of the sky, stopped, sat there for about 20 minutes. While the clouds were blowing by, this thing sat still, and after a period of time, it went straight back up out of sight into the sky. So maybe that's a good omen for tonight's show. I don't know, but I think we're in for a good one. And our guest tonight on the show is a longtime researcher, and he spends an awful lot of time out of doors, tracing around through the mountains. He has literally videotaped hundreds of hours of UFO footage, all mostly from the South Mountain area of Phoenix, Arizona. And our guest tonight has proved beyond a shadow of a doubt there is definitely something very strange, very bizarre going on in the South Mountain area of Phoenix, Arizona. And if you've ever been to Phoenix, that's the mountain on the south side of town where all the big radio and TV towers are. So the South Mountain petroglyphs that are there in the rocks on that mountain give us physical evidence that this phenomena has been going on for perhaps thousands of years. And so the ancient Indian petroglyphs of South Mountain are really like an ancient echo from a distant past. So as we get into the show, our guest is going to explain much more about this. But before I introduce our guest, let's take a look at what he has to go through to obtain some of this footage, because sometimes it's easy and sometimes it isn't, folks. So if we're ready, let's go ahead and roll that clip, please. It sure is. Please allow me to introduce to you Jeff Woolwine. Jeff, welcome so much to Cosmic Chronicles. We've been looking forward to having you on the show, and you've done a vast amount of research. And just in case the audience, anyone in the audience hasn't noticed, there's somebody else sitting next to Jeff. Well, that's not all we have for you tonight. We also have another surprise, and the fellow sitting next to Jeff, I'm sure you'll recognize him from the History Channel's new series, Ancient Aliens. And so this second guest here is also a full-blooded Zuni Native American tribal elder and consultant to the History Channel's Ancient Aliens series as well. Clifford, welcome to you to the Cosmic Chronicles. Thank you so much for making the long drive. 5 hours, 5.5 hours from Zuni Pueblo here to Tucson. We're very thankful and appreciative that you came here. And I thought it would be a good idea, and we're all three in mutual agreement here, that it would be so interesting to compare some of these petroglyphs and UFO sightings, because a tremendous amount is also happening up on the Zuni reservation as well. And so we can kind of compare notes as the show goes on, and I think it's going to be a very interesting show. And Jeff, by the way, has appeared on many television shows as well, and especially news articles up in the Phoenix area relating to local UFO sightings. And it seems to me, and I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a minute, and I promise I won't be long, but it seems to me the news media has recognized you as a serious researcher. But I also think the people running all the various UFO conferences and conventions should take note of all the years in the legwork that you have put in, and you now literally have hundreds of hours of UFO footage. Literally, he has hundreds of hours of this stuff, folks. And another thing that I'm going to say this right out, and the only way I can think of it, one thing that really chaps my ass is all of these so-called experts in the UFO field that have never even seen a UFO, much less have never even interacted with one, but yet they are the anointed experts of television. The pretty boys, the ones with the silver tongues, they've never even seen a UFO, folks, most of them. So it just seems to me that we're listening to the wrong people in this field sometimes. But anyways, okay, enough said already. I'm off the soapbox, okay? We'll get on with it. But I just wanted to get that out there, because these two folks sitting beside me are the real deal. You can't get any closer to it than these fellows right here, folks. That's why I wanted to say that. Okay, Jeff, a long time ago, you moved you completely relocated your family and everything to the South Mountain area. Why?
Well, I just want to say thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. You know, I started seeing things in the sky, and I wanted to find out, you know, what it was. And I moved out there to the east side of Mesa because I heard that there was a lot of reports in Phoenix area of the Phoenix Lights, the history of the 1997 Phoenix Lights. And I did some research and found out where the lights were happening at pretty much on a regular basis out there. And so I moved out there to sit and watch, you know, just to see what would happen. And sure enough, within like 2 weeks, we get a series of orbs, and they seem to be going towards the mountain, towards South Mountain area. And so we sat there and we filmed some lights for a few days until the...
A few days?
Yeah, well, you know, every night. Every night we would go out there.
20 seconds, right?
Oh, no, no. Yeah, the sightings would sometimes last about 20 minutes to a half an hour, you know, every night. And I decided to get closer to it. You know, I wanted to get a better shot of these orbs. So I found the Mesa Community College out there, and they had a set of bleachers. So I was sitting, we sat up there the whole summer of the year 2004 and documented these lights. These light orbs would show up in the skies over Mesa, Arizona. And, you know, during that summer when I was, you know, trying to, you know, figure out what these things were, you know, their pattern, you know, I was calling the news stations and I was saying, hey, is anybody else seeing or reporting these strange lights, you know? Well, no one got back to me for about a few months. And then finally, Scott Davis, the producer of News Channel 3.
I met him, yeah. In fact, he's interviewed me once or twice.
Great guy,
Yeah,
awesome guy. Yep. We got together, and he was like, well, there's other people out there, you know, seeing these things too. Would you like to do a news story? And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, let's get the public aware that these lights are back. There is something in the sky, and if we can get more people to see this, you know, it would be, you know, a great opportunity for everyone to actually witness something that, you know, no one has really seen in a very long time.
Awareness.
That's right. That's right. So I ended up doing about 4 news stories. And the end result was we were seeing flares. We were seeing flares about 100 miles away here in Tucson at the Davis Mountain Air Force Base.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, you know, clearly in the videos and what we were seeing.
They must think we're stupid.
That's right.
They must think the general public. That's an insult to the public.
That's right. Yeah. And so while I'm investigating this, I knew you know, these couldn't possibly be flares. In my investigations, I come to find out that these things like to hang around mountains. It seemed like mountains seem to be the energy spot. And I remember seeing a tour guide on the channel, and I asked him, hey, you know, could you take me up there, you know, to explain these petroglyphs? And he's like, oh yeah, sure. So he took me up there, and we examined the petroglyphs. And in that time, I decided that I would move closer to South Mountain to get a better view. If anything was going to happen, I was going to be there to get the shot. And so that's what I did. In 2004, we saw the famous Phoenix lights, you know, in 2004. And then in 2005, we moved closer to the mountain to see if we could get some day shots and to hike the mountain and to learn the petroglyphs.
Yeah, wonderful. And in Clifford's case, you don't have to move anywhere. They're right there where you live on the Zuni Reservation. Okay, we really have to fly with this show tonight because we have so much to show the audience, and I want to make sure they get to see it all. So, if we're ready, in the first clip, Jeff is talking about the petroglyphs. So if we're ready, let's go ahead and roll that clip, please.